My boss fired me for resistance to change after 15 years maintaining the hospital's critical systems. Your methods are outdated and inefficient, he declared, bringing in a young consultant to replace me. We need modern approaches. I gathered my belongings and left quietly without a word. My name is David Carter, 43, systems analyst at Central Valley Medical Center, New Jersey. For 15 years, I made sure every digital heartbeat of that hospital ran smoothly. Emergency software, patient records, surgical tech. I held it all together. But that morning, all I heard was, "You're too slow for this new world, David." He didn't even look me in the eye when he said it. Dr. Kyle Reynolds, the new hospital director, mid-30s, fresh from Harvard, with expensive shoes and a cold smirk. He was standing next to a girl half his age. Avery Summers, 26, the young consultant. No introduction, no warning, just a tight smile and a handshake that never came. "She'll take it from here." I packed up in silence. No goodbyes, just stares from people who once trusted me with their lives. I left behind everything, my corner desk, my second home, and my dignity. That night, I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. I sat in my apartment replaying every second of that conversation. Outdated, inefficient, resistance to change. How could I be thrown away like some obsolete machine? But here's the thing. I knew things about that hospital no one else did. Flaws in the system, old records that were erased, and a few questionable software overrides that Dr. Kyle himself had approved before becoming director. I had buried them once, but maybe it was time to dig them back up. That night, I logged in remotely one last time. The new consultant hadn't changed the security protocols yet, amateurs. And then I saw something strange. Avery wasn't just updating the system. She was rerouting data to a private offshore server, medical records, patient billing logs, even legal waivers. Why would a consultant do that? I started digging, and what I found made my blood run cold. There were hidden data trails leading back months before I was fired, as if this had been planned. As if Kyle had always meant to replace me, not for being outdated, but because I knew too much. That's when I realized something else. The night before I was fired, Avery had come to my office. She stood there pretending to ask about an old backup drive. She was nervous, biting her lip, glancing over her shoulder. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Now I know better. She was looking for something, or planting something, and that was the beginning of everything. They thought I'd disappear quietly, but they made one mistake. They taught me how their system works, and now I'm going to use that same system to burn them down. Before you scroll, remember, this story is just getting started. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what happens next, because trust me, things are about to explode. I started small. Avery had full system access now, but she didn't know where the hospital's oldest digital skeletons were buried. I did. I knew every bypass I had written into the system back when budget cuts forced us to improvise. I had quietly coded access doors where no one else even looked. That's how I got in, undetected. By day, I applied for jobs like a man trying to rebuild his life. But by night, I watched. Every change Avery made, every login she tried to hide. I logged it too. She was good with code, better than I expected, but sloppy with secrecy. There were alerts sent to a private email, encrypted messages tied to a company I'd never heard of. MedGenX International. Offshore. Untouchable. Then something unexpected happened. Late one night, I saw her camera feed accidentally left on. A glitch in the hospital's new smart monitoring interface exposed her laptop feed for a full 2 minutes. What I saw made my heart stop. She was crying, alone in the server room, head in her hands, whispering something to herself. "I'm sorry, I didn't want to do this." Why would someone who's stealing millions cry like that? The next day, I sent her an anonymous message. "I know what you're doing. I know who Kyle really works for. You're not safe either. Meet me." No response. For 3 days. Then she showed up at the coffee shop across from the hospital, sitting exactly where I used to have lunch. Same table, same black coffee. And when I walked in, her eyes locked with mine like she had expected me. She spoke first. You don't understand what they made me do." And just like that, everything I thought I knew flipped. She wasn't some tech prodigy hired to replace me. She was planted. MedGenX wasn't just buying hospital data. They were laundering it, using false patient identities to charge insurance companies for procedures that never happened. Kyle's job wasn't to upgrade the system. It was to bury the people who knew too much, and I was first on that lie. Had lied. For a moment, I felt hollow, like the floor had fallen out from under me. I wanted to believe she was different, that her tears were real, that she wasn't just another puppet on Kyle's payroll. I tried calling her. No answer. I tried her apartment. She was gone. Landlord said she moved out the night before. Left no forwarding address, left behind nothing but an empty coffee mug on the windowsill, the same kind I used to drink from across the street. I didn't want to believe it, but maybe Kyle got to her, or maybe she was never on my side. I paced my apartment for hours, mind racing, and then I remembered something. A hidden folder name she mumbled under her breath in the record room. Echo 0. I typed it into an old backup server I still had access to, buried deep in the hospital's internal cloud. It worked. One folder, password locked. But the file titles were all there. Patient 1218, procedure denied, insurance override, multiple auths. This was the real deal. Somehow Avery had saved a second backup. I had no choice now. I went to someone I trusted, Dr. Helen Carter. She'd been at the hospital even longer than me. A pediatric oncologist who didn't play politics, didn't care for hospital drama. She listened to my story, every single word, without interrupting. Then she said softly, "You do realize what you're up against, right? Kyle's not just the CEO. His brother sits on the state medical board." I nodded. "That's why I need help. Real help." She stared at me for a moment, then said, "Okay." We used her credentials to access secure channels, started leaking parts of the folder anonymously to investigative reporters, ethical watchdogs, even one of her former med school students working in cyber forensics. But we kept it quiet, slow, one leak at a time. And then, like a crack in a dam, things started to fall apart. 2 doctors were quietly suspended. One financial officer disappeared from the hospital without a trace. Whispers started among staff. "Have you noticed Kyle's been keeping his door locked more lately? Why is compliance showing up every day now?" But just when I thought we had the upper hand, my name showed up on the hospital's internal watch list, flagged for malicious activity. The system I had helped build was now hunting me. Then came the worst blow. Dr. Carter called me at midnight, her voice shaking. "Avery came to me. She's pregnant. She says she has proof Kyle is planning something huge, something offshore. She wants to help, but she's scared you'll never trust her again." I couldn't breathe. Pregnant? I hadn't even known we were that close. But then it all came back. That night in the server room, when we stayed too long, when lines blurred, when the world outside didn't exist for a while. I thought we were just broken people clinging to something that felt right in a world that wasn't. But now there was someone else in this story. Someone innocent, and I had to finish what I started, not just for me or Avery, but for the life we didn't plan on creating. Subscribe now, because the final part will change everything you thought you knew about trust, revenge, and what happens when the hunted stops running. I met Avery again 3 days later at the old church on Bellwood Avenue, the one with broken pews, peeling paint, and the silence of a place that had seen too many prayers go unanswered. She stood near the altar, arms folded across her stomach. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen. But when she saw me, she didn't look away. "I know I betrayed you," she said. "I didn't mean to. Kyle showed up that night. He threatened to release fake hospital reports, to ruin your life if I didn't hand over the original drive." "So you gave it to him," I said, voice low. "I did," she admitted, "but I kept the real one hidden. Buried inside a children's case file in the oncology wing's archives. Kyle only got a decoy." I stared at her, my heart pounding. "You lied to protect me?" "I lied because I was scared of what losing you would feel like," she said, wiping her eyes. "And because this baby didn't ask for any of this." That's when I knew she had never switched sides. She'd been walking a razor's edge between blood loyalty and what was right. And now, standing here, she had finally chosen me. United States. The truth. That night, I uploaded everything, every file, every fake surgery, every forged document and misused insurance policy. I didn't go to the police. I went straight to the press, to watchdog groups, to medical ethics panels. I burned every bridge behind me. And then I went home. I expected sirens. But what I got was worse. When I walked into my apartment, the place was trashed. Every drawer emptied, computer destroyed, photo frames shattered, on the kitchen counter. A single photo of Avery, pinned with a knife. Kyle had seen the leak, and he'd responded the only way men like him know how. I called her. No answer. I drove faster than on that list. Avery leaned forward and whispered, "There's a file. A folder Kyle doesn't know I saved. It has everything. Names, payments, fake surgeries, even a recording." My fingers tightened around my coffee. "Then why haven't you gone to the police?" She laughed softly. "You really think they'd believe me? They already tried to blame you for a system breach last month. Why do you think they fired you quietly instead of calling HR?" I felt my stomach turn. So that's what this was. They weren't just replacing me. They were framing me, slowly, cleanly, with digital evidence that no one would question until it was too late. That night, I made a choice. I wasn't going to clear my name. I was going to destroy his. But we'd need to be careful. Kyle was protected, wealthy, with connections. One wrong move, and we both vanish. Avery reached into her coat pocket and slid over a flash drive. "You said you knew the system. Prove it. Bring it down." And that's how it started. Two enemies turned allies against something bigger than either of us imagined. Don't miss what happens next. This is only the beginning. Subscribe now, because next time we break into the one place Kyle thinks no one would dare to touch. 3 nights later, I was standing in the dark, staring at the back entrance of the hospital's record room. The old biometric system was still in place, one of my last contributions before Kyle took over. I had designed it with a fail-safe override just in case of power loss or revenge. Avery stood beside me, her hands trembling as she pulled her hoodie tighter. "Once we're in, we've got 10 minutes before the new security logs us," she whispered. "Then we don't waste time," I replied, and swiped the access card I had cloned 2 years ago, back when I still believed loyalty meant something. The door clicked. Inside, it was silent. Shelves stacked with labeled drives, encrypted files, and a cold hum of secrecy that reeked of hidden truths. I found the cabinet marked Surgical Archives Q3 and pulled it open. There they were. Patient records, invoices, files that should have never existed. 27 surgeries billed to insurance under names that weren't even on the hospital registry, all logged under one internal code, KRYLX-1. Kyle Reynolds' Y-level executive transactions. He had even named the fraud after himself. Cocky bastard. Avery moved quickly, snapping pictures, plugging the flash drive into the central terminal. "We just need 5 more minutes," she said, breathless. But I saw something in her eyes. Fear mixed with guilt. That's when I asked the question I'd been holding back. "Why you? Why did Kyle pick you?" She froze. Her lip trembled. Then she whispered, "Because I'm his niece." I stared at her, stunned. She kept going. "He raised me after my dad died. He's the only family I have. And when he offered me this job, I didn't know what it really was. By the time I figured it out, I was already part of it. So the girl I thought was the enemy was his blood. And I had just dragged her into a war against her own family." I turned back to the screen, fighting the storm in my chest. Every minute that passed made this harder to undo. But we had the proof, enough to blow this operation wide open, enough to ruin Kyle forever. Then a red light flashed on the monitor. Remote override initiated. Avery gasped. "He's here. He's logging in from the director's terminal." The screen blinked. Drives began encrypting, files vanishing. "He knows," I said, my voice dry. I yanked the flash drive from the port and grabbed her arm. "Run!" We bolted down the hallway, alarms starting to whine in the distance. Avery was crying now, not out of fear but something deeper. Guilt, maybe, or grief. We made it out just as the fire doors slammed shut behind us. Outside, I handed her the flash drive. "Hide it, somewhere even you don't know." She looked at me like she wanted to say something, but no words came. Just a nod. I didn't sleep that night. I knew this wasn't over. Kyle had just shown his hand. He knew we were coming. And now, he'd come for us. We weren't just dealing with hospital fraud anymore. We were dealing with a man who had everything to lose and no reason to play fair. Before you leave, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, because what happens next is darker than either of us expected. The next morning, I woke up to silence. Not just quiet, silence. My phone was dead, no Wi-Fi. My power flickered twice and then went out. I stepped outside to find the power line to my small apartment building had been cut, and parked across the street was a black SUV. No plates, windows tinted too dark to see inside, but I knew. Kyle wasn't hiding anymore. I went back inside, locked every door, and checked the flash drive copy I'd made before giving Avery the original. But when I plugged it in, all I saw were empty folders. Every file gone. Avery. Than I ever had before, heart racing. I reached her apartment, pounded on the door, and then she opened it. Alive, shaking, but unharmed. "I knew he'd come," she whispered. "I recorded him. He didn't see the second phone. I got the whole thing." She played the audio. Kyle's voice. "You think that child will protect you? He's not even yours. He's just another weakness I'll erase." My hands clenched into fists. That was all the proof we needed. The recording, the files, and Avery's sworn testimony brought everything crashing down. Kyle was arrested within a week. Federal charges, fraud, medical malpractice, threatening a witness. And for the first time in 15 years, the hospital lobby felt different, quieter, cleaner, like the ghosts had finally left. I was offered my old job back. I declined. Some things once broken don't need fixing. They need burying. Avery and I moved upstate. Small town, clean air, a quiet life. No cameras, no security protocols, no codes to crack except for the baby names we couldn't agree on. Sometimes I still hear the buzz of the old server room in my dreams. Sometimes I wake up thinking I'm still fighting Kyle. But then I roll over and see her face beside me. And I remember, we won. Not just the war, but our own peace. And just when you think it's over, let me leave you with this. 2 weeks ago, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just a hospital logo on the corner. And one line of text, "This isn't over." Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because the next story might begin when you least expect it.